Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Thank you, Mary Jean. All right, we have a few more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and open up Photoshop on my computer. That's okay, Cindy. If you need to leave, that's okay. It's let me double check, make sure since I did hop off that this is recording. And it is, okay. Once again, if we lose audio like we did that last time, if somebody could send me a text, I will see that before I see any chats or questions. My number is 940-367-4269. We had no problems yesterday. So I don't know if any of y'all noticed that the recordings are up. I put links in the file of the web page, or not the web page, the Facebook page, and the file thing. I have the links. And also for today, if you haven't noticed, I have posted a link to some Dropbox files that have the files that we're going to be working with today, in case you want to follow along, or do it like, use it later on too. That's up to you. Or if you're like me, you have to sit and watch and just take notes on it. So, hi, Barbara. Okay, we'll give a few more minutes. I'm going to repeat a couple times what I just said to everybody. So thank you for answering my polls on Facebook. It really gives me an idea of what levels everybody is at. Some of y'all might be a little lost today, just kind of watch the recording back a couple times, and it might help you to get. Mary Jean, I used the mirror to get the horse's attention, not to reflect light. In fact, and it's fine with the black backdrops because the horse is kind of in an area. But yesterday, my assistant, we were doing a sale horse photo, and she grabbed the mirror, and we were in the full sun, and I had to tell her to put it down because the mirror's reflecting all over the horse, and I've had that happen, and it's it's not easy to remove that bright mirror. Actual reflector is, if I was going to use one, I would use an actual reflector to reflect light onto the horse. I think what reflects the light the best on the horse with these with the shaded black backgrounds is the concrete or gravel in front, or even sometimes just the dirt in front of it. The pictures that we're using today, even though it was a dark barn, it just didn't, they still had some windows, and it wasn't near as dark as I wanted. The one that I was kind of showing y'all yesterday, that they put the tarp up over the window for me, it still wasn't dark enough, and that's kind of what we're going to do today. And then we'll have a couple of the natural light ones too. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to repeat what I said a little while ago for people who have joined back in. on the Facebook group. And those who aren't on the Facebook group, I did emailed you the link to the Dropbox files. So if you want to play along today with us, you know, that I included the images that I'm going to use today in Photoshop. Once again, for questions today, try not to use the chat. Please use the Q&A, because I do get a notification when somebody puts a question. I don't get any type of notification from the chat. I have to manually go back and check the chat, because I do close the window because it just gets in my way. So I am going to share my Photoshop screen with everybody. Now, there's so many different ways people can set up your Photoshop, and it's all personal preference. There's no wrong or right way. It's just all about what you want and how you want to have it done. I still might be blurry. When I first started up, I was having some camera issues. It just might be me. I'm a little fluttered today, so I just might be blurry. As long as my screen is okay, the Photoshop screen, I don't care if I'm blurry. But let me know if the Photoshop screen is working okay. It might be good if I'm blurry today. I'm kind of I spent the morning with my mother-in-law. That's, you know, that's what I'm just going to say there. So, all right. So yeah, how you set up your Photoshop is perfectly up to you. There's no wrong or right way. And also with the method that I'm going to do today, you know, this is my method. This is how I've developed my way of doing it. It doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean there's a zillion other ways to do it. This is just how I do it, and I'm just going to kind of give you some tips on doing things. I know there's a lot of the photographers, and they're beautiful, and I have nothing against it. It's just not my style. They're very artsy looking, and it almost starts to look like a painting to it. I don't do that. I like a little bit more realist look for my horses, for mine. So it's just, you know, your style of what you want to do. If you want to learn how to do that artsy look, I can refer you to somebody who can teach that to you too. So there's several really good Photoshop gurus out there. So one teaches quite a bit on EPN as well. Okay, all right. So when I open my files, because I'm going to do some layers from different things, I do not crop, I do not straighten until I'm done, or close to being done. That being said is because I might want to pull in that same image, or like I was talking about, I do send some off to retouch up for masking. And if I crop it after I've sent an image off to be masked, when I bring that new image in, it's not going to match up. So it's not going to look right for me. So I don't do any cropping really, other than if I cropped it or if I straightened it or leveled it. If I had room in Lightroom, it's already been done, and then I use that image to send. I do work with JPEGs in here, and I'm one of those who I don't like going, you know, with Lightroom. You can use the option to edit, you know, drop down, get that little drop down and bring it from Lightroom straight into Photoshop, open in Photoshop. I don't like doing that. I like to keep my file open, and I know they're JPEGs. Every time you open them, you lose a degradation. I really haven't seen that much degradation. So I'm going to open one of the most recent files. And I have several of them. And we're going to start with something simple. Sorry, y'all, my allergies are really bothering me today. I'm going to start with one of the more simple ones. We're going to start with one that was pretty dark as is. All right. So I opened up 0162 if you want to go with that one. We'll do a few other things with this too as well. It wasn't completely dark, but it was dark. And the way I like to look to see if I'm missing any really dark spots is immediately I'm going, no matter what I'm doing, I Control J or Command J to make a duplicate layer. If you don't want to do keystrokes like me, just go up to Layer and do New and make a layer from background. That will give you a duplicate layer. I think that's right. I don't use that much, but I like Control J. Okay. All right. So once I do that, I will do an adjustment curves layer. Okay. I use the little half moon thing at the bottom of the layers panel to do curves, adjustment layer. You can also go up to layer, a new adjustment layer, and make a curves layer from there. I find it just easier that I have a tab for layers. If you want to make your own tab, I think that's pretty default in Photoshop. So, but if you don't have it for some reason, just go to Windows and check layers, and you will get that window. Okay. So once I get my little window up, my curves adjustment layer, I'm going to bring it up quite a bit. And I can see all the dark spots, you know, where it's not too dark. That's probably too much, but I bring it up a little bit. I can see, you know, there's areas in here where there is not, you know, it's not that black. So I know I'm going to have to do something. All right. So I'm going to delete that layer. I don't want to do that. So right now, first thing I want to do is clean up what I do have, just so it doesn't anything that I'm going to automatically do. So I'm going to do a very basic lead rope, and then you can see a little bit of the stick horse down there. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. You know, none of them are wrong. I actually like the healing brush tool, the spot healing brush tool for that. So we're gonna get a little big there, and I just randomly pick photos. These may not have been the actual photo that I might have been my favorite for that, but I just kind of paint over it. I like to use a soft brush pretty much on everything. You know, this doesn't always super work as a soft brush. I could make it a little bit bigger too. Same thing with brushes on here that there is on the Lightroom. It's the brackets, make them bigger and smaller. Okay. So yeah, that did fine. I'm happy with that. So remember I was talking about these little lead ropes here, or not lead ropes, the little rope halters that are really easy to remove. So there's one here. One suggestion I'm gonna tell everybody, if you plan on ordering one, if you only want to order one, I suggest you order the white one. I wish I ordered a white one. The reason being is I find this colored one, which is kind of, I guess, is perfect for Palominos or Duns, it leaves a little bit of a color cast on white horses. I think if we got a white one, or even a black one too, then we wouldn't have that issue of having a color cast on there. So I do plan on ordering a white one soon. So I'm still using the spot healing brush on this too. I usually don't like to go on all the way to the edge on it. All right. And I'm listening. Now we do have a little bit of issues because this is a paint horse, so we're gonna see what it does with these spots. And we are going, as we're going through this, we are gonna be doing some troubleshooting too on here. Because this is, I haven't done these photos, I haven't done anything with them, so you're gonna run into all the problems that we can have, all right? If you're, I think a few more people have joined. If you want these images, I've either emailed them to you if you aren't on Facebook, or I have a Dropbox link in the files folder on our Facebook group, and you can download these. I don't know how many people are gonna tag along or just watch. If you're like me, I have to watch. I can't work and try to figure out what I'm doing. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm trying to, interesting. Okay. I don't know why it won't blow up for me. There we go. All right. I don't know if y'all know the shortcut to zooming in and out. It's control plus or minus, or control or command plus or minus, and you can zoom in and out. So I do want to look at this closely in here, and we may not get perfect. I just kind of want to show you a little bit how I do it. Yeah, this kind of did some weird things, and that is her horse, and she may know the horse's markings. So we may go in a little bit more to it. And later on, I might go look at the horse again, where I can get those markings correct. But I'm not really gonna spend a whole lot of time on it. All right, that's not correct. All right, now when I get close to the edge is when I switch to the clone tool. If you're a shortcut person, it's the S. No control or anything, just S on your keyboard. And then I'm going to go in and just clone out this. And I'm glad the horse is trimmed. When I have an edge like this, I actually do the edge somewhere of the horse and kind of bring it in. Oops, sorry, y'all. And I'm going to apologize again for any dog noises or anything. This is the only spot in my house that I have a good enough signal, so it's not the most quietest spot in the house. All right, same here. I'm going to look here. Kind of smooth that out. I might want to go to a little bit harder edge or smaller. And I'm not big on, you know, this is blown up pretty big. I'm not big on getting it 100%, you know, every single pixel into place, unless I know they're going to order, you know, something of 40 by 60 or over. All right. So once I have, you know, that done, I'm ready to kind of work on the background. I do like to use the levels for this. And what I like to do with the levels is I like to take the black eyedropper and I will say, okay, that's black, and I'm going to see what it does. It may not do anything. Okay? And sometimes if you go to a lighter black spot, it will work a little bit better. But I do like to do that to kind of pick a couple good spots. And, you know, I'm going to turn this off and on. So there is a little bit of change, and it did darken it up a little bit for us, made it a little bit more contrasty and everything. All right. So from there, I'm good with that. So I am going to flatten these two layers together. With that, I highlight using the control, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to merge layers. I don't want my bottom layer. My bottom layer stays as is. All right. From here, there's a couple ways we can do this. You know, it is pretty dark now. I'm going to do a real quick little curves layer just to double check again to see if we're getting any closer. And we are getting much closer now. We by just using the levels, we got a whole lot. I'm going to even go up further. So, you know, if I'm pretty good with that. I'm not going to worry anymore really about doing much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just paint, hand paint this. You know, I can also clone the black into there, but I'm going to hand paint the top part. I'm going to look, there's a little bit of glare. I didn't turn on my light here. You know what? That's why I'm blurry. I didn't turn the light on. So that's why it's a little dark in here, but I do like to work a little bit darker with Photoshop too. But let me go ahead and I'm just going to get my paintbrush, B for brush. I'm going to select a color close to the horse. It's pretty much black. Okay. I'm going to, okay, and I'm just going to paint this in. So we've gotten pretty simple here. I don't think I'm going to have to do really much more with this. We already had that gradual fall in and everything. Now, tomorrow we will bring this image back up and we will go into a little bit more details and everything, but I'm not going to do that now. Right now, we're just trying to get our background in how we want it. Today, we're just going to kind of work on the details of it. Let me look at my list so I don't double cover stuff. All right. So that's kind of how what we're going to do here. You know, if you really want to get a little bit more, you know, perfectionist and take a look at the curve. Wait, I turned my curves off. So there we go. You know, I did brighten it up a little bit. I did change the curves up. If you want to see the curve layer, what I did, actually I did that. I didn't really do anything. You know, we can look at it again. I don't really see any spots that are going to really show up. All right. So I'm done with this. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm not going to flatten it. I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file because I will come to it tomorrow. Question is what happens if your background was not naturally black, where the horse's mane is? How do you keep the mane? We're going to get into that later on. Right now I'm kind of showing you we're going easier by we're starting with the easy one and we're going to go into a little bit more complicated ones that will have something like that. So how are you showing? Oh, the toggling, showing the lighter and what you have now. I'm using the curves, this little curves layer right here. And with the curves layer, I am bringing the center of the curve layer up. If you can see over here on the right side, there's a line curve thing. I'm bringing it up to bring it really bright and light. Okay? And then I'm bringing it back down. So it kind of can show it that way. All right. So I like to keep it, you know, that's a pretty quick and simple little layer that we're going to do. All right. So like I said, I'm going to flatten this. I'm not going to flatten this. I'm going to close this and leave it as a layered. So when I close it, it's going to save as a Photoshop. So I'm going to say yes. And we'll come back to this tomorrow. And I'm going to do a little bit more of the details on there. Okay. So I'm going to save it. Okay. The next one we're going to work on is, I don't know, let's open it up, see if I even want to work. If it's too similar to the other one, I'm not going to. Yeah, it's pretty similar. But raise a hand if you want me to work on this one as well. Okay, I will work on this one as well. All right, so same thing. I'm going to duplicate the layer, Control J. Okay, I'm going to, sometimes my fingers don't work. Okay. Oh, lots of questions. Hold on, let me answer some of these questions. On your screen, there's two different colors of black. Huh, interesting. I am not seeing two different colors of black on mine. And I will show you on this one, but that doesn't mean it's right. But I will go back and look at it because now you have me worried about my screen. So if that is two different colors of black, I would just go back and correct it, and I would paint the whole thing if that's happening. But I was trying to sample from where it was. So yeah, I would correct that. Okay, and yes, I will show you how I select the black color to paint the background on this one. Okay, I'm not going to remove the lead on this one because it's pretty simple to do. We do run into a few problems down here across the leg, but it's a real easy one. And I think pretty much everybody knew the clone tool, so that might work for everybody. All right, so and I'll get to this, how I sampled the black in a second. Okay, I'm gonna do a levels again. All right, and I am going from here, I'm gonna take, this is the black. All right, and I am going to find a point that's black. And I might do a couple of them just to kind of see what's going to work the best for me. If it's not working, I might even pick something like that. See how it kind of did that one. That's a little too much. So, because it kind of went into the horse a little bit. Well, we're getting there. So once I feel like, you know, the horse isn't getting too contrasty or fake looking or anything, like when I clicked on here, it just kind of darkened the horse a little bit too much. So I'm going to click more on somewhere black. Okay. So I'm trying to find a black point, and it's in the levels right here. And there's the, at that one where it says the black point. There's also, we can pick a gray point, and we can also do this for the white point, and that kind of changes the color. If I was to click on this one and find a white point, it really, really brightens it up. I could probably play with it a little bit more in a few places, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the black one. And spot where we want it. No, it doesn't like me because I used the white. Okay, all right, that's way too white. Let me just go to the history. Okay, I'm going to start that over. Okay. I don't know if y'all know the history panel that I just used right there. I kind of went back to a few steps from where I did. Okay. And the tool thing is properties, and everything that if I'm showing you, if you don't have it up, just go to your Windows and you can get that from there. I use a lot of different tabs. All right. So on this one, this one's a little bit more black, or not quite as black here and there. I'm going to use the curves layer. And on this one, I'm actually going to keep the curves layer up. Okay. So that way I can see a little bit more of it. Now I'm not working on the curves layer though. I'm going to work on this layer down here below. And I am going to paint black. I know I have a black brush from the last time, so I'm going to just paint on here. And I'm going to paint this stuff all through in here just to darken it up. This one's pretty simple. And I'm not a perfectionist. As long as I'm seeing that it's pretty black on there, I'm not going to worry too much about it. All right. So when I take off this curves layer, we're pretty black here. I think that's about as much as I really need to do. I will look at the curves layer one more time and even bring it up more. And you will see some edges around here. So yeah, see when I go way up where the horse just disappears. But yeah, use those curves layer. You don't have to keep the curves layer, but use your curves layer, you know, to do things like that. You can even bring that black up a little bit more, maybe bring the white up a little bit more in your curves layer too. So, all right. Nope. I did not mask the layer of the horse first. Not on this one, because it was very simple, very clean edges. It was already dark around the tail. That might be hard. So no, I didn't mask the layer. Other question was how I created my curves and curves and levels layer. It is a layer mask in case I do make a mistake. I can do it. It's at the bottom of the layers panel. Down here is the half moon. And then I click on it. It just doesn't like me today. Click on it, and I either select levels or curves. That is one way to get it. The other way is to go to layers up at the top and pick adjustment layer. So either curves or levels, whichever one you want to use. Okay. So, all right, we'll go back and work on this one again, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. We might just work on the other one since I actually edited this one. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to save it as a layers, a Photoshop layers. Okay. All right. All right, so I'm going to open, let's see, we'll get to the more complicated ones later. This one here, okay. The first thing I do is I kind of look over it and going, okay, and create a plan of action. So I really don't care about the lead rope except for up against the horse's chin, where it's attached. I know the rest of it's going to be blackened out, so why spend the time of editing that out? So what I'm going to do, I haven't even checked to make sure this one, look at those dapples. It's sharp enough. It's not that sharp, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this area right in here, and I will use the clone tool. I really don't care if it's matching up lines or anything like that. I just want to get rid of what is going to be in my way later on. Okay. And I'm going to show you how I probably would remove this ring completely because it just kind of gets in my way. But we're going to make things a little complicated here. Actually, I might just leave it like that. But I'm going to show you just to show you. Oh, I forgot to do a Control J downfall there. All right. So when you have to remove a snap, you always, have that one piece right there that is just that you can't do a curve. There is a way to clone things curved. I just don't remember how to do it. So I'm sure some of the more experts out there probably can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a section of the other the ring. I'm just going to take a little small section of it. Okay. Now, when something's selected, I'm going to Control J, and that is going to make another layer. So you say layer 2, and I'm just going to name this. I usually don't name things, but just so you can see what I'm doing, I'm just going to do it ring, call it ring. All right, so I'm going to take that, and I make it a layer mask. If you don't know how to make a layer mask, can you right click? I don't remember. All right, you can, and I don't remember if you can do it up here either. I get things so, yeah, you can do a layer mask here. Or I prefer this one. Down here below on the layers panel, there's several different options. There's the square with the round circle. I make that a layer mask. This right here is my layer mask for those who don't know layer mask. All right, and what it is kind of, don't use the eraser tool. So it's kind of white reveals, black conceals type thing. So you're using only black and white. So it's almost like cutting and pasting something out. So you can take stuff out and then you can remove stuff back in. I have the hardest time explaining layer mask. So what I'm going to do now with this circle, this ring, is I'm going to Control T or Command T, and that is the transform tool. I'm going to just kind of move it around, and I have a lot more than I need, obviously, until it kind of lines up to where I need it. Okay. And I might have to use the liquify to get exactly where I want it to, because it is a little bit different angle. I also can hit the shift key and kind of stretch it too. Depending on what Photoshop version you have, if you hit the shift key, it won't lock in. Where if you don't hit the shift key, it locks in. It used to be the opposite of that. So sometimes it is holding the shift key, it will lock it in. But now they've made it where you don't have to hold the shift key, and it really confused me in the beginning. Who else got confused when they did that? So, all right. So I'm going to, remember, white reveals, black conceals. All right, my paint chips are down here. I can either hit this little arrow to switch it from black or white, or I can hit X. X will switch it back and forth. So that's our masking. And masking could be a whole nother lesson. So I highly recommend, if you don't know how to mask, there's a whole bunch of YouTube channels, or give me a shout and we can set something up for you. So, all right. So I'm going to get it where I want it. Okay, I'm going to be on there. B for brush. And I'm going to paint away. Okay, make sure my, okay. Oh, another thing on paintbrush, if y'all don't understand opacity and flow and everything, opacity, obviously, if I paint in its lower opacity, it's not going to uncover everything at once. And then the flow is kind of like your pressure. I'm like at 100% flow, I am at 100% pressure, removing it. All right, so, we kind of have to be a little, I would probably go into liquify. I'm going to move this a little bit more using Control T. All right. we're just going to leave it at that. I would go into liquefy probably and do a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about that today because that we could spend, I don't want to waste too much time because I want to be able to cover. I'm going to just merge those two together. I'm not going to worry about that, but yes, I would go into liquefy and pull that out a little bit because I couldn't get the shape I wanted using that tool. Okay, so after I get to there, now I didn't edit this one in Lightroom. This is kind of how it was straight out of the camera. I just kind of grabbed some yesterday and I didn't do it. I figured I could show y'all here too, because not everybody uses Lightroom. All right. So from here, what I'm going to do is I might sharpen it a little bit because I didn't sharpen it in Lightroom or anything, but it's fine for now. All right, let me merge these two layers together because that is a green layer. Okay. All right, so I merged those together and I made another one. Now there's going to be some people who just want to manually hand paint all around this. I don't do it like that. I prefer to use the Photoshop tools. Some will use, and it's actually pretty good. I don't even know where it is, the pen tool. Oh, down here. To make their selections around it. And that kind of, it does take practice to use the pen tool. I don't know it enough to teach it, so I'm not going to teach something I don't know that much about. So I like this tool up here. It's called the Quick Selection. There's also the Magic Wand, but I like the Quick Selection tool. Photoshop has this wonderful thing that they installed a few years ago called Select Subject. And it actually works pretty well on in most cases. Sometimes it won't, you know, it goes off of pixels and sharpness and everything. So I'm gonna show you how I use it. I'm gonna just let it select the subject. We're gonna see how it does. It did a pretty good job. It missed a few spots. The tip of the ear. It even knew I didn't want the lead rope. How about that? We forgot some of the chest. There's this one little spot. I don't know why it missed this little spot right here. And then we also missed some of the mane up here too. We can fix that. Let me check, make sure. I thought there was a question up here real quick. Hold on. Oh, shoot. Okay. All right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, awesome. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. All right. So, all right. So, okay, let me start that over. So, I like to use, I don't know where it was left. I'm going to start where the pen tool was. Some people like to use the pen tool. I don't know the pen tool enough to teach it. And what we're doing is we're going to select this. Photoshop has really improved the selection tool in the past few years. We used to kind of have to go around and select it ourselves a little bit. Now you can go up and select subject. And it does a pretty good job. It missed a few things. We're not going to worry too much about that yet. We will get to that. So, you know, as y'all know, on every tool, the quick selection tool here, whenever you select a tool, it has different options up, all right? So if I was to want to like go in and select the hand for something like that, I would go new selection and it would add to this, or it would totally give me, actually forget that, I would have to add to select the selection here. All right, so there's add and subtract from selection. So there's a few spots it did not add in. So we're gonna add in this right here, and we're gonna add in this right here. A little trick here is the smaller your brush, the smaller amount of pixels it's going to be selecting. So if I go and just select like 6 pixels, I'm going to have to go in and do that too. And it is a little bit more precise when you have the smaller amount of pixels. You know, if I was to go in, we're going to give it a second. I was going to go in and make it a pretty big selection and try to select the ear. It's probably going to do a lot more than that. So I'm going to Control Z this. Another key too, when you're doing selection, is take your finger off every once in a while. I'm going to make my brush smaller. Let me do it up here so y'all can see for the ear. And I like around 5 or 6. All right, so we're going to blow it up too. So I like every once in a while, just take your finger off, let it do, because if all of a sudden you go in and do a whole bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden it takes this big section of the back wall or something, you can't Control Z that because it just did everything you just worked on. But if you let go every once in a while, it's just going to go back to that next step. I hope that made sense. Like I said, there's lots of different ways to do it. This is how I do it. Side note here, I am seeing these halters all over I think they're Perry halters, Perry leather, and I am seeing so many different colors. They're leather halters, which I love, but you can, like yesterday, I was at a barn and one person had purple, one had turquoise. This one is kind of an orangey, peachy coral color, and I think I might have to get some. All right, so the mane really blends in a whole lot, as y'all can see, with it. So I may not do that here. I may go into the next step. All right, so. All right. Well, that's cool that you're, Marcia, you're the photographer for Paris Leather. How cool. So, yeah, I was actually on their website because I'm like, oh, I really like these. That's very cool that you're doing that for them. So, might have to get in touch with you. See what I was talking about? Every once in a while, it will, let me show you the whole screen. See how it just selected all that? So I'm going to Control Z, and it will just do that. So I know that's about as much as I can do right here. All right, there's this little knob here underneath the neck. I'm going to do that somewhere else too. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to the next step of select and mask. So you can see down right there is the select and mask up in the toolbar at the top. I'm going to select and mask it. And this helps me get a little bit more precise with it. Like I said, I don't like hand painting things in. As you can see, the edges are a little rough, actually a lot rough. Okay, so there's several different ways we can do this. All right. Now, the red indicates what I'm masking out. There's a whole bunch of different ways. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do this. We can either, you can pick whatever color you want. Let me make sure everybody's getting here. All right. So you can pick whatever color you want. You know, if red doesn't work for you, you know, you can add some lime green. It's just whatever you prefer. I've always, you know, the red's the default, so I just stick with it. All right. So you can also make it, you know, especially when we're working with the hair and everything, you can also make it as the opacity as thick or solid as you want, or clear or solid as you want. All right. This is a really good one for black background, is the black and white. So if there's maybe some patches in the white area that are black that you missed, you know you can go in and check on it. We are doing a black background, and some people will like to do that on the black background, so you can kind of see how it's going to look. There's a whole bunch of different ways. My preferred method is the red to do this. And I usually keep it at about 50% opacity. Sometimes I go up a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. All right. So that way I kind of can see the underneath. All right. Now this shift from this right panel over to the left. So we have the brush tool. That is a solid brush tool. Basically, we're kind of brushing. It's basically like a paintbrush, but it is a mask, and it is plus or minus. Don't use the X here because it will do some funky things. So you actually have to go up and manually do that. If somebody knows a shortcut, I would love to hear it. So I'm on the brush tool here. So if I wanted to go into here, and I have a soft brush, and I'm going to go in and just kind of get it a little bit where I want it, a little bit more. And we'll probably go into a few more spots and go through here a little bit too. Wherever it looks a little rough, I'm going to go in. All right. So, sorry, I was checking for a question. So I'm going to go in here and just check for, you know, go around, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Right here looks a little rough, so we might work on that. Definitely we'll have to work on this. We'll probably have to do something down here. It looks a little rough here too. We can also make it a little smoother. I'll come back to that panel. I don't want to switch panels back and forth on y'all. Hold on. Now there's also the refined brush tool. This works pretty good on the hair. So once again, it's the plus or minus. And I just kind of go halfway in there. That one I forgot to switch to minus. So, because it's bringing it in instead of out. So I'm going to go back over that. And it's picking up the hair pretty well. All right. So I'm going to lower the opacity really quick just to see where I am on it. And that's pretty good. It will do, and we can also raise up the opacity too on that. It will do, you know, some hairs. It's not going to get every single hair, and sometimes you do have to still go in and do some different editing on it. That's why I really like long-haired horses, to get the natural light where you don't have to get out, do the background, or use a backdrop. But because I'm not a Photoshop pro, and I'll tell you that right now, and I get impatient with it and I want to throw it out the window. So I get by though. So, all right, so that's kind of the refined brush tool, and I only use it on hair. For some reason, if I do it, if I use it, you know, along the more edges, it gets this pixelated look, and I don't like it. I don't, not pixelated, like a dissolved look. Like if everybody's used the brush on the dissolve mode, it kind of gets that kind of look with it. But obviously we have some rough edges here. So I am going to use the brush. Wrong one. I'm really bad about that. So this is real life, y'all. A little bit softer brush, larger, and just kind of go over the edges of these. And then I probably made it too big because we're getting a little bit of a flare out. All right. And no, I'm not getting this perfect. And you know, a lot of people are going, well, if you're doing all this, why don't you just paint it? And I just don't. So, all right. So I'm going to switch to adding because we still don't have everything up here in the ear. And I'd rather get too much and fix it later on than not get enough. And I did kind of go into the throat latch here too. Right. In some horses, it works really, really well where you really don't, it grabs it really well and you don't have these rough edges. I'm still not liking the edges a whole lot on this guy. All right, so there's several different things we can do now. We can go ahead and smooth it some. Okay. There's also the edge detection too. I don't really use that. The radius type thing. I don't know why the color just went off. Okay. I don't like to feather too much. I just think the feathering, well, I'll show you what it does. We'll just exaggerate it a lot. It's going to feather in. Well, if I shift the edge, give it a second too. So if I shift the edge in, that kind of does some weird things. I don't know why it's not doing a thing. Let's do smart radius. There, so it just took a while. That's why it's not doing anything. So, you know, you can shift the edge in or out a little bit. That's your personal preference. And some do like to shift the edge out because it, or in like that, because it, you know, for that fade effect. And that's still the feathering. We'll go back to the zero feathering. Just give it a second. It's not liking me today. There. All right. So you can do some stuff like that too. All right. Like I said, I'm not spending as much time as I should do. Now you can also go and decontaminate colors. You know what? This horse's color is pretty much the same as the background, so it's not going to do you any good. What it does do is it does say, hey, output new layers with a layer mask. I want that for the output. Don't output selection. I want it a new layer with a layer mask is my selection. So we're going to bring it in. Okay, it's going to look like nothing happened here. All right, so we have the same horse. All right, you see how it turned off this layer? I'm going to turn this layer back on just because I want that extra layer. If I was to turn both these off, we have a blank palette, and you can see right here where I messed up right there. So because I have a layer mask, I'm going to bring this one back, bring that one back. Because I have a layer mask, I can bring that back. So I'm on a layer mask, white reveals, black conceal. So we're going to go in here and I'm going to bring this back a little bit of the chest here. All right, so I did that wrong. So we can kind of, I did it in the wrong spot, sorry y'all. All right, so I kind of brought it back. And if I see, I'm hitting the X, if I see any places else I missed, I'm going to. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this now because that's really easy now to get rid of. And anything else? I'm going to look at this a little closer. All right. That a little better. It's black. I'm not too worried about it because we're doing a black background. All right. The edges are still rough. I probably would want to smooth them up more. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to do another layer mask. And I always use adjustment layers, not a layer, adjustment layer mask, I should say, adjustment layer. There we go. Got the right name now. And I'm going to use a solid color. I've got to go over here and make sure that this is going to be the color I want, which is black. There. I made a solid color layer. If I want to change that color layer to whatever I want, you know, I can, but we're going to go with the black. layer here. All right. Looks a little blue to me. The horse does that now that the black's up. Okay. Oh, I just changed it to that. So. All right. Hold on. I'm just checking for questions here. All right. So we're going to stop at this point here because tomorrow we'll go in and clean it up a little bit more and make it, I'm going to teach you how to make those dapples even more dappled. It should be fun. We'll make sure we're staying on time here too. All right. So that's kind of where it is now. It looks a little flat. It doesn't look blended in or anything like that yet. We'll get to that later when we tomorrow. We're going to kind of make it not look so stark against there. For one thing, the horse is overexposed too. And we can fix that in the final product too. So, which I like to do. I actually like to do the exposure and everything. You know, yeah, I'll get it a little bit right in Lightroom, but I actually like to do, if it's not already on a black background, I actually kind of prefer to do my getting the exposure and all that stuff once I have it on a black background, because sometimes it just changes the look on a black background. But that's my opinion. Okay. We're going to save it as a layered Photoshop layer file. Okay. All right. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to show you how I use retouch-up. Okay. So we have the horse here. And, oh wait, let's not do this one yet. This one's going to have some issues because of down here at on the ground. We'll do that one next. I just want to kind of go in baby steps by using the easier ones to do. We'll go ahead and do this one. So I opened up 9715. It's Cricut, like crazy Cricut. And what we're going to do tomorrow also with this one is the horse's legs are kind of stretched out. So I think I did pick one. I might have to find which one I used. I wanted to use, hold on, I'm going to open one up real quick that had its legs more correct. It might have been this one. Yeah, that was the one. I didn't like the headset on this one. I liked it a little bit better on this one, but see how the legs are really strung out? So tomorrow we will probably, I'm going to show you how I replace the back end of the horse. You know, it's two different options. When I have, I'm going to pull this up real quick. Two different. When we have two different pictures that, you know, the neck looks good on one, the headset looks better on the other. I'm always like, okay, do I want to replace the head, which probably actually would be easiest to replace the head versus replacing the leg. The angle is pretty much the same. And the reason why it's going to be easier to replace the head, and that's what we might do instead, versus the leg, is because the head's going to be on the black background. The legs are going to be on the floor. So let's do that instead. That's why I did both of these. Now, you know, sometimes I have to remember these things. But I do want to do a head replacement just to show you all how to do it. It's pretty good, you know, the same angle and everything like that. I wasn't happy with either of the pictures or anything, or any of the confirmation pictures on this angle of the horse. The other angle I like better. The other side, I should say, not angle. But yeah, we're going to do that. So that's kind of my theory, is when I'm trying to find replacements, I always think, okay, is this one easier to replace this way, or is it easier to replace the other way? Somebody asked, I could do both the head and leg replacement. Yeah, I could. We could do that. We'll do that. All right. That's something we're going to do tomorrow, though. So let's not work on these two today, other than getting, I'm just going to show you how we do the background on it. All right. So did I do this one? This saves a lot of time too, me sending it off to rebook you. So what I'm going to, here, let me do this again. All right. So hold on, more questions here. Nope. All right. Let me go through these questions really quick and mark it that I've answered it, because it keeps on popping up saying there's questions and I keep on forgetting to do it. Because if not, it's going to keep on giving me a pop-up. You don't see it, I just see it. So all right. Okay. All right. All righty. So maybe it won't keep on popping in my face. All right. So what I like to do is, remember, I don't crop it or straighten it out until I get closer to the finish here. So I'm going to go up to File. First, let me open it real quick and just show you. So these are the PNG files that I sent off. I sent this image to them. This is what they send me back. So it has a transparency, and I paid $1.50 for them to do that. It's well worth my time. Let me go ahead and open it up so you can kind of see how it looks. It's not perfect, but it's a quick fix. The tail is a little but we can paint that in, and that's about the, you know, for $1.50, I'm not going to complain ever. I don't see, they might have missed a spot. Nope, they didn't. And I sent this in last night, and I got it back this morning. So they're quick too. That's what I like about them. They're very, very quick. So I don't drag that in, you know, from the, I could have dragged it in and from the other image and put it right in there, and it, I would really have to spend a whole lot of time lining it up correctly. So instead, what I do is I go to File, Place Embed, and I'm going to pick the PNG file that they sent me, and I'm going to place it. And it should go right on top of it, because they're really good about getting that file in there. Jan, I sent it to retouchup.com. I did add that to the resources link, so you can use them. I did put in a little code that y'all can get 10% off your first one. So, man, find like 20 of these and send it first time, you know, so you get that 10% off. I know it's not a whole lot, but 10% is 10%. You know, if you just send one in, that's $15. You might want to wait to, you know, wait for that code, use that code later on. So, all right. So now I have, you know, the place in bed on there. I have it on there. Let me hit enter because it's not wanting me to do that. All right. So you can barely tell until I turn off the bottom one. Okay. Now what I want to do first, before I really start, is, I probably should have done this first, is I'm going to get rid of any little artifacts on the floor or anything like that. Just because I want to work on it and I want to show you this. And sometimes I will take out part of the horse too at the same time. But I know her feet are going to be in here. I'm not too worried about the upper part of her body, but I'm going to show y'all anyways how to do this. I don't know how many people know this content aware. Okay, hold on. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. I just had a it dinged at me, so I want to make sure. All right. So I want to get rid of her feet. And I don't know how many of y'all use the new, it's not that new, but it's about a year or so old, the content aware fill. I'm going to show you how I love to use this thing. So I use the lasso tool. I can either go up to the lasso tool right here or use the shortcut L. So I'm just going to lasso her out of here, basically. All right, and we'll get the wall too. All right, and I might even go back and do this thing too, just to make the floor nice and even and everything. I might even do the grass in there. So I lassoed her, and I could probably go in a little bit closer to get a little bit of it. So I go up to edit. I'm not sure if it's still on edit on Macs. I apologize. And then I select this content aware fill. All right. Usually, if you can also just right click and do fill and everything, but it's going to sample a whole bunch of different things. What I like about the content aware fill, it's got to be my most favorite tool that Photoshop has come out in the last few years, is it's going to give me this green screen type thing. All right. So what I'm going to do is kind of like a layer mask. And once again, you can change the color if you want. The green is their default. It's going to give me a layer mask, and I want it to select, I don't want it to select the horse, okay? So I'm going to tell it not to select the horse. So it's going to sample from whatever is green. I don't want it to sample this bright stuff. I pretty much just want it to sample the floor, except for the top part of her. So I'm not going to do just the floor. It's pretty good about something. And you can see over here, it's giving me a sample of what it's going to do. So it's going to do that as well. Okay. So it did a really good job of it. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay. So it got rid of her. This is really good if y'all do ever do very many sale photos or confirmation photos to get rid of that person. It's a lot easier than cloning that person out, if you ask me. All right, so I'm just going to say okay. Now it does give me this one weird layer. Control D to get rid of the selection that deselects. All right. I am going to, because we're going to do this on a couple things. And I find the more I clean up ahead of time, the easier it is. So I'm going to merge these two layers. All right. So I want to do the same thing with the grass. So I am going to, and we're going to, well, no, we'll do the grass, because if I do the door over there too, it's going to do some weird things. So I'm going to select the grass and kind of this line in front of it. And we're going to see how well this does. It may not do what I'm hoping it does. And then again, it might do a really, really good job. So I'm going to do this content aware fill again. All right. And I pretty much am going to get rid of everything except for the floor, even the dark floor part. And like I said, I'm going to do this on several different things today in this one image. I don't want this door. I don't want it to select the legs. This is where lowering the opacity kind of can help to make sure I get everything I want. And I don't want it to select any of this dark stuff over here. All right, so I'm going to say okay, because it's already kind of doing it a little bit. All right. And I do not like what it did whatsoever. It didn't do a thing, probably because I did something wrong. Oh no, it's still working. I apologize. Let's let it see what it's doing. And let's hope my Photoshop didn't lock up. It did. You know what? I don't like it. Don't like it at all. So I am not going to even save that at all. I think there's some other tools that might work better, like the patch tool. So we will try the patch tool. If y'all haven't ever used the patch tool, it's over where the healing brush tool and everything is. And we're just going to do the patch tool real quick. If that doesn't work, I'm going to clone it. Cloning is probably, for some reason, my least favorite when it comes to patterns. Okay, we're going to have to do sections. I wasn't thinking. Right. So and patch tool probably won't work either because it's on the edge. So I'm probably end up going to have to clone it. Just saying. That's better than it did. Right. But I can keep on working on this all day long if I want to. You know, I can use the healing brush. There's a whole lot of different things. But where there is patterns, it just is a little bit harder to do, in my opinion, and I don't like working with patterns. You know, we may not even worry about it too, because another thing we could do is we can wait and work on this when I finish it, and when I crop it in and straighten it, it might work. Another thing I want to get rid of back here is this back here, and we can do that pretty easily with this mask on right here. I don't know why my computer is not letting me select some stuff. So when I have this guy back here selected, because I'm going to tell you now that bright light is going to not be fun. I don't really care how well this is done because we're going to be black later on. So I am using the clone tool. I promise it's not wanting to work for some reason. Hold on. I hate it when I'm teaching something and things don't go as planned. Okay, I'm going to do another layer. That's what it is. It's that layer. I'm on the wrong layer. All right, that works better. So I'm just going to clone. See right here, doesn't matter if I get the horse in there a little bit because I have a masked layer of the horse above. Just because that bright color is going to go, it might bother me. Most of this is going to be shaded in black. Okay. And because I knew this wasn't going to work earlier, I do want to clean this up. Kind of in the area where the floor is going to be. That's pretty sloppy. I would go in and do that a lot more. Okay, so I have this on now. All right, we have a floor this time. We will go in later on and clean this floor up, just not now. All right, so once again, I am going down here to my background copy. Let me just get rid of these two copies because we're not, these two layers because we're not using them. All right, I'm just going to delete it. How about I just hit the delete key? There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do here is some people use the gradient, and I got to make sure we have black over on our paint chip too. Some people will use a gradient. I'm not a big gradient fan, and I'll show you why. Okay, so when the gradient comes up, we want it obviously to go the other way. All right, and we're going to pull it down, and it kind of blackens out a little bit. Not really want it where I want. I want to be in control of where I want that gradient to be. So I'm not going to use the gradient. I prefer to use the solid color. All right, so I'm going to do the solid black again. Let it go in. Looks like it's floating, right? All right, so yes, it does. Well, we have a layer mask. So remember, white reveals, black conceals. Wait, no, other way around. So I'm going to do a brush. So B for brush. And I'm going to make this brush huge because I want a really soft edge. And if you could look up here with my brushes for the hardness, you know, we can go really hard or we can make it really soft. I like I work with a soft brush most of the time with what I do. There's a few times I don't. So I'm going to come down here because I want a very, very soft edge, or feathered edge, I should say. And whoops, let me change the paint chip to black. I say oops a lot because I mess up a lot. All right, that might be a little bit too much, okay? So I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to make this even smaller. Whoops, I keep on Control Z-ing everything. Okay, I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller because that was too much. And I'm going to come down even further down and bring it in. That, I just want control of it. So I'm going to do it until I think it looks like it's not floating back there, and that's good enough for me. So that's kind of how I use retouch up for the black background. Yes, the horse's tail still looks awful. It's still kind of floating. You know, we have some issues here and there. So now I actually probably can. No, I can't yet. Go ahead and fill in this little grassy knoll here, as we call it. I'm not going to do that yet. I'll wait till we get more to the finished area to do it. But I do like to do that type of cloning and everything. Why I have my mask of the horse up, so you can kind of see where the horse was and wasn't. You know, if I really have issues with this tail, I do have a mask, so I can, you know, even make this into a mask and mask out some of the tail where it's issue. I actually like to kind of either darken the tail at the edge manually with Dodge and Burn. We'll do that tomorrow too. Or I'll brush the hair in. That's another thing we'll learn tomorrow too. We got a lot to learn tomorrow. I hope we have enough time to do all that. We might actually start a little bit today if I get ahead of time. We might go ahead and do one. All right, so I'm gonna close this and save this as a layered mask for tomorrow. Okay, or later today, whichever comes first, or for whatever we have time for. Because this one's 2 hours today, correct? Yesterday we went overtime, but because I was thinking everything was 2 hours, and I think I only did one. Okay. Yeah, we'll work a little bit on the tail tomorrow, because it is a little bit different. So, and we actually can go ahead and I can show you to do it without sending it in to. That's kind of what I want to do next is opening one of these files up that has a tail and the hair and everything in it, so I can kind of show you the masking on it. So I am going to pick, let's see, we'll do this one right here because I like this picture. Oh, is the tail show enough? Let me find one that the tail shows a little bit better. And actually this one might work because it does have a little bit of the mane showing. Not much though. We'll go ahead and do this one again, the same one that I was doing, because this one shows the tail most of all. Now, because I'm not going to I'm going to save this one as a different file real quick. Y'all don't have to do that, just so I don't mess up anything in case I have to go to it. All right, because this one we're going to do manually. So I know I'm going to do it manually, so I'm going to go ahead now and straighten it. Because I don't want to lose any of my pixels on the side. I don't know if y'all know the cropping thing right here, where it is content aware. So when I straighten this and I use the edges, I use the lines at the bottom of the barn to straighten it. And also I can use the line where the black is behind us, or not the black, the sun shining through the bottom of the barn. So I'm going to get it as straight as possible. I'm going to let it do content aware. So it's going to pick up, and then you have to enter. I always forget to do that when I'm done. It's going to try to pick up the edges for us to see if it, so we don't lose really any of the edges. My computer's very slow because it's almost full. I think I have, it's a terabyte computer, and I think I have 200 gigabytes left of storage. Anybody else run into that problem constantly? Okay. All right. It could probably be a little bit straighter, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay. Yeah, it's a constant battle getting these images off. I mean, even though I do, you know, go in and back them up right away, I still want to get them off. All right, so I'm not using retouch-up this time. I'm going to do this manually. I hate doing this. I'm going to tell you that right now. I've gotten lazy with full bodies by using retouch-up. So, but we're going to do it anyways. I'm going to get rid of this lead rope first. Just because it might just kind of come into it. I don't want to crop anymore. I'm going to use that spot healing brush, and I'm not going to get rid of most of it right there, just because I don't want to have to deal with it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of her like we did. So I'm going to do it a little bit different this time, just to show you other ways to do it. I'm going to get rid of her. Lead rope. I'll just get rid of this too. Oops. Let me add, not subtract. Okay. So I'm just going to right click and fill. And you know what I didn't do, you guys, and I'm not going to worry about it. I did not make a duplicate layer. So now something I don't do unless I just really, really, really have to, and that's floor replacements. You know, if I want to do a really, really good fine art piece, if they're going to be blowing it up really big, oh, that did horrible. That did just really, really bad. But you know what? I'm not too worried about it because it's kind of on the edge over there that, you know, if I know I'm not going to use this edge over here for something, I'm not going to worry about it because that's going to be black. But we will go ahead just to ease my mind, and I don't like that. Never mind. I might just blend a little bit of that in because I know that might show up, but I know this isn't going to show up. Okay. All right. So, you know, I just don't do a whole lot of floor replacements. I'll clean the floor up a little bit. I'm really big on let's get this floor swept so we don't have to. You know, a lot of the aisles are, I did one the other day that had a black mat on it. And I told her, I said, are you okay with this black mat being in the photo, or you want more of a concrete look? She was okay. So we're going to leave that black mat, or the black mat, in the photo. This is, you know, pretty floor. Yeah, it's, you know, she greased the hoofs right there. So there was that grease marks there, and I might go in and clean that up, but I don't like replacing the floor. If we have to, you do, but just make sure you do some dodge and burning, or do a shadow, or even, you know, if like, say we have a more concrete floor than this kind of reddish gray hues in it, and it has more blues, make sure you're putting a blue cast on the horse as well. Oh, after the lasso, what did I do? I used the clone tool. After I did the lasso around here, I right-clicked. Somebody's asking what I did after the lasso. I right-clicked in the center. Here, let me go ahead and do it real quick again for you. So I just lassoed this, and it might work better the second time we do it. So I lassoed this. I right-clicked in the center of it. Sorry, I go too fast sometimes. And I picked fill. And then there's several different options you can pick for fill. You know, we can do a pattern or but I do content aware. What content aware is kind of, it guesses on what's around it. And I'm just going to say, okay, and let it work, do its thing. Probably not going to do much better than this because it's on the edge. Content aware and the patch tool works much better when it's not on the edge. That's good for now, because we're not going to really, I'm not too worried about, you know, something that we may not use, and we may even go over to the door later on and do that too. All right, but I know I'm going to fill this in with black, so I'm not really concerned with it yet. All right, so I still need a little, let me Control J because I keep on forgetting to make a new layer. I'm going to go in and let's get rid of this here. Actually, you know, it's much quicker just to use this patch tool or the healing brush. All right. Even though, you know, like I said, I shouldn't have worried about that. I always say, don't worry about these things, and then I go and fix it. All right. So there's still this little snap here, right here. So I'm just going to clone it out. And I probably should blow it up really big. Okay. You know what else I'm going to do, I think, before we start on it? Do y'all think his nose is, no, his nose isn't. For sometimes, you know, their nose kind of sticks out a little bit, and I'll use the liquefy, or I'm not very good with the puppet warp, to go push the nose in. All right. So, all right. So my next thing, what I like to do, whoops. Sometimes I will do a unsharp mask on it. I don't like to over sharpen my images, so we're not going to do that. But I'm going to just show you how to do it just in case. All right. So I made another duplicate layer. So I'm going to, I actually have an action that I've purchased for it, and I'm going to show it to you. And I don't remember, I would tell you guys who it was, probably Florabella, but it is called Sharpen and Defog, and I'm just going to run it real quick. I do have to have my layers flattened though for it, but I'm going to just show you, and it's a really good action, and I think it came from Florabella, but it's a Sharpen Defog one, and it just doesn't overly sharp things, but it does a little bit for me. So you can kind of see it's a little sharp, and I think they use sharp mask. So I'm going to show y'all how to do that. So I duplicate my layer. I keep on forgetting to put done on these answers. All right, so I'm going to do a duplicate layer and then go to filter and then other. Actually, it's high pass, not unsharp mask. And I'm going to do a high pass. All right, so it kind of gives this, you know, we want to go, it gives this gray layer or whatever to me. So I want to make it a little bit over, you know, until I'm starting to see the edges of the horse. I don't care about this edge down here, but I want to see the edges of the horse. And I prefer to use this really close up one too. So once I get to where I want to be, I'm just going to exaggerate a little bit so y'all can see. That's way exaggerated. It's going to make it way too sharp for my taste. So we're going to go around 10 or so. And I'm going to say, okay. So it's gray. Okay, so it's gray. So what do you do then? So we go to our blending modes. And if you never use the blending mode, they're pretty cool to use. And just go to overlay or soft light, whichever one you prefer. I like overlay, and it gets rid of that gray hue. So if I turn this off and on, you can see the difference in the sharpening. That's a little much for me. So I kind of like a little bit of sharpening. So I'm just going to lower the opacity of it, and then it gets to where I want it. So you can kind of see it with and without. So we're going to flatten this image, and I'm going to duplicate the image again. All right. Some people use smart filters too. I'm not a big small, you know, because it does help, you know, where you don't get the you start losing, you know, the quality of your image a little bit. I'm not a big smart filter person. So now that I've sharpened that, I'm good. And it did sharpen, you know, the edges that I wanted masked and everything. So I duplicate my layer. I might duplicate my layer again just because I'm OCD on that. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again just because that's how I work. So I'm going to do, once again, I'm going to use the Smart Select on the Quick Select tool. I haven't gotten in the habit of using, because I don't use it that much, of using the shortcut key, which is a W. And that's what I like about Photoshop, is when you kind of hover over your tool, you know, it kind of shows you what it does, but then it also gives you the shortcut key, which is a W. That's just one that I haven't developed the habit of doing. So we're going to let it hit the select really quick. I can't get to the tool yet. Hold on, because we're going to let it hit the select subject and see what happens. And who knows what it's going to select. It didn't do bad. Didn't do a bad job. You can see, I'm going to blow it up in a few of the places. See how rough these edges are? Horrible, horrible. You know, and there's also the auto enhance too. I really don't like this at all. So it might be one of those hand painting job type things. A lot of it is because it's so hard to detect the edge from this color background, because we have a, you know, a brown horse on a brown background. It did a really bad job. You know, I probably, if I wasn't trying to do a display and get some images to do this, I would have used a backdrop in this barn, because I wasn't getting the dark barn that I thought. Just too many lights, windows. They had skylight, not skylights. We don't have very many in Texas. The cupolas, you know, where it lets a little light in from the top. So it was just too much light coming into this barn to get a natural background. As you can see, I didn't bring the horse out because there was tall grass. So I had, it's beautiful barn floor. Why not use this barn floor? You know, for the headshots, yes, I would have, you know, I probably would have brought the horse out, but I wanted some headshots that were in here that I could teach on this. So that's just kind of the methodology of my thinking of when I go to a place. And there is sometimes you can't use the backdrop. You can't bring the horse out, and you have to do it manually like this. I know there's some photographers that won't do a black background without, you know, they have their own method. I know one will do every single picture like this, no matter the barn. And that's just really tedious work to me. But that's my, you know, everybody has different methods. All right, so I have to remember that I don't really care about the masking from here down because we have a floor. We may have, you know, the tail, you know, that we're going to have to work on a little bit in a little bit. I do like to actually brush on the tail some. All right, so I have yammered about trying to put this off here, haven't I? All right, so we're going to go ahead and work on this one. I'm going to do as much as I can here before I go into the masking part thing. I had a question of do I ever brush in a dark exposure background in Lightroom before bringing it to Photoshop? Yes, I did that a little bit yesterday in the Lightroom demo yesterday. So if you haven't watched that one, watch the recording where I do that. I do a very, very limited amount though in it, and I do a very rough draft of it, and it is to show my client, because I show my clients the images as is in the picture, but I do like to show at least one before and after, so they kind of get an idea of what it is. And I just do usually a headshot, and I do it in Lightroom. It's pretty tedious in Lightroom to do. in it. But some people are really good at it. I'm not as proficient in Lightroom as some people. So that's why I do that. Okay. But it can be done. Not saying you can't do it. It can be done in Lightroom. All right, I lost my selection. Hold on, let's see. There. All right. So, you know, we have down here lots of issues going on it. And if I was more proficient in the pen tool, I think the pen tool would probably work a little bit better in this one, where we just go in and select. But I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not good with the pen tool, so I'm not going to teach you it, because I might probably totally teach you completely wrong. All right, so remember in our selection tool, we had add to the selection or subtract from the selection, or just the new selection. So we're going to add to the selection up here. I do want to get in a little bit of this neck. I know the main, I'm going to let go just so it doesn't, I'm constantly letting go so it doesn't, if I do mess up and it goes and selects a whole bunch, I don't have to start all over. So I'm constantly letting go. And you know, a lot of times when the horses have these little frizzy flyaways on this side of the neck, I'm going to take those out anyways. So I'm not going to worry about those. We want, you know, we want our subjects to have, you know, those really nice, smooth hairlines and everything. All right. So this one, we're probably going to have to go around almost the whole thing. And see, there it happened. So Control Z. That way I only messed up with, it's just not going to let me do it here. Let me see if I can do a smaller, like I'm 1 pixel of a brush, see if it will pick it up now. So it is kind of picking it up a little bit better. I'm going to let go of it for a second. This is just not my fun way of doing this. I like using rebooking much better. I'm going to tell you that now. All right. I'm going to, if I can't get it, I'm going to do it in when we go to the masking part. All right. See, it's just not liking doing the ears because there's just not enough contrast. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to waste my time there. Kind of like getting horses' ears up. If you're not going to get it up, try something different. Don't keep on doing it. Go to a different pose. Go to a different location. All right. So I'm cleaning that up. You can see here, really bad here too. It's just not catching it. So we're going to have to do a whole lot. In fact, when I get to this point where I know it's just not picking up anywhere, we're going to minus this out. See if it picks it up. It did pretty good. See, it didn't get the chestnut, and it's just messing up everywhere. This one might be one of those, we got to hand paint this one in no matter what we do. Oops, wrong one. Control Z is my favorite. See, I keep on hitting that. How bored are y'all? All right, so I'm going to go in like that. I'm going to see if there's anything else. That's just too much. Okay. We're going to do a little bit of this hair of the horse here, and this black leg probably can get. Yelling at me. We're going to get a little bit more of this hair in there. And what I'm doing too is I'm making some mental notes of, oh, see what happened there? It selected too much, didn't it? So we're not going to do that there. I'm making some mental notes kind of where I need to be looking at closely. Like here, you can see here, this, is that the top of the horse? Yeah, you can barely see it, but that is, I think, the horse, part of the horse. Yeah, it's kind of showing the far hind quarter. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the select and mask. All right, looks horrible. In fact, this is one I think I wouldn't use the select and mask. I'm going to show you guys anyways and just hand paint it in, because anybody can hand paint something in and learn how to do that. It's drawing. If you have a Wacom tablet, you know, that helps a lot too. I do everything on my laptop. I'm one of the few people that uses the mouse pad on the laptop to do everything. But I have used a Wacom tablet, and it is a little bit easier to get a little bit more precise, especially when you're hand painting stuff in, and it does save your hand a little bit. I usually do not sit at a desk. My hip starts to hurt, my back starts to hurt. So I am a couch potato when I edit. I sit with my legs up on the couch and I edit on my laptop. I don't like sitting for too long. But okay, we're gonna run out of time. I think everybody wants to know how I do the tail. So we're gonna show you the tail real quick. So right here is the refine brush tool. I'll leave that highlighted for a second. The R shut is the shortcut key, and I need to remember how to remember that, because there's also the brush tool, and then there's the refine brush tool. So what I'm going to do, and I don't know how well this is going to do this, is it kind of refines it in a little bit. See how it's picking up a little bit more of these hairs? All right. So I was doing the plus sign there. Now I'm going to do the minus sign and come from the top. I was coming from the bottom. Now I'm going to come from the top because I didn't like how it did. This isn't working very well either. So we're going to keep the plus and just kind of refine it in. So see how it kind of picks up some of these hairs a little bit. I'm going to blow it up closer so y'all can see that. Look at how bad that is. Oh, all the way around it is just horrible. So you can kind of see we're getting a little bit refined. I can get smaller brush. It might refine it even more. Okay. Let it work a little bit. Okay. It takes a couple tries. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do some on the regular brush tool as well, just because there's a little bit more blurriness or not as much blending, and I can blend this in later on too. I'm just going to show, I'm going to use a black background, and this horse is going to look horrible, but I want to show you the tail, how I do the tail is the main thing. My goal right now is to do this tail. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the refine and get in here a little bit so it just starts to blend a little bit more in. Okay. Let it do its job. Okay, so I'm going to do the black background on this one. Please keep in mind, this is nowhere how we're going to do this. This one I actually would hand paint in because it just, I'm going to have to hand paint it anyways to get all this done. That's why I like Rebuki. So, so I'm going to go to new layer with new mask. Don't ever forget to do that because it's going to, if not, it's just going to come with a mask layer. Okay, so I have that now. I am going to do my black solid color. It's going to look horrible, you guys. All right, I'm going to say okay. I'm going to come to my mask with a big giant brush. and paint down here to the edge. All right, so I want to get more black on just around the tail, just so y'all can see. Anybody can blend it in this way, but I do want you to see. I don't want the tail to be masked out. I want to be able to work that. Oh, that looks bad, doesn't it? We have an earless horse, with some really bad legs, and no hoofs in some places. So, you know, I could also, because it is a tail and not a mane, I'm going to undo this because I don't know what I just did. Oh, I went off of it. Let me make this smaller. Because it is a tail, I'm going to do this because I want to show it to you. But what we could do because of the tail is we could come up to our mask that was sent to us, or that we did from the thing, and just kind of come down here and blend that back out a little bit. Sorry, I did that wrong. Yeah, that's right. And then mask it out, and then mask out this color too, and that would bring the edge of the tail. But what if you have a long mane? You can't do that with a mane because it's up by the black. So what I want to do, am I confusing y'all? Because I'm confusing myself. What I want to do really is to show you how I do. I'm going to do a paint. I'm going to paint a lot of it in. All right, so the tail doesn't look too bad, but we know we lost some of it. So I'm going to reveal what's underneath. See how much we lost of it? You know, the tail comes down to the very tip of the fetlocks. So we did lose some of that. So I already filled it in the paint. So I can mask out that paint. To reveal some of the tail underneath. But then we don't want to go too much because then we start to get the floor and it doesn't blend in as well. So I'm going to go as far as I think is safe. Okay. All right. So we can kind of see if I turn that off there where I did. And that didn't do too bad. I want to make this around it black because I want to show you guys the brush tool that I use. I'm just going to make this black. All right. So we can mask it in. If you know how to do channels, channels also works really well for this too. That is something I'm not that good at and precise at yet, so I'm not going to teach it. And I think going into channels right now would be confusing for a lot of people. All right, so I am going to brush this in. It's something I do in the final product. So we're going to pretend like these aren't layered anymore, but I'm going to keep them layered. So does anybody know how, in case you don't know how to do this, we're going to combine all these layers together and make one layer. So I don't know the exact one for Mac. I think it might be Command Alt Shift E, but on PCs it's Control Alt Shift E. And what that did was make a combined layer of all my other layers. So because I'm just doing this for basically just showing you how I do my brush. Now I've created my own brush and I'm going to show you how you do that. So you can see how I have hairbrush here. So I have a hairbrush. So I have to open it up so I can get my settings for it. All right, so for the brushes, I'm clicked on the hairbrush. Oh, hold on. I'm going to the wrong spot. So I go to my settings right here. Actually, here we go. Okay, bear with me. It's been a while since I've made my own brush. There's the hairbrush. Here, because I'm in the wrong spot. Brush settings. All right, so I'm in my hairbrush. And y'all take a picture of it with your phone so you have the setting right here as I go. So we want to do the shape dynamics, okay? So I'm going to click on the shape dynamics. All right, so we have the size jitter, diameter, nothing really is kind of changed on this one, but I am using shape dynamics. And then I have you can do color dynamics too, and sometimes I will go in and switch that. And what it does is kind of changes up the color as you go. It kind of keeps the main color you have, and it kind of changes the color. I have transfer checked. So I kind of have it's a fade. So that means it's kind of fading out as I go. We have the flow jitter, right? At 28%. Like I said, take a picture of this with your phone if you want. And this is in brush settings, which you can get the window by going to window, and checking the brush settings. So, and then you can create your own brush from it. Okay. The brush hose, don't ask me what all these mean. I just kind of played around with it. And that's kind of where I have my settings. I don't think anything other than the rotation is at 60. And then I like the wet edges. Just click wet edges. It doesn't have any settings. The build up and then the smoothing I have checked. There's really no different settings for each of those other than just having something. All right. So you kind of see here as I do the brush, it's going to fade out. So I'm going to pick the color kind of near the ends. I'm going to do that, and I might change it up. And we're going to go ahead and do the color. I'm going to check the color dynamics too, and I'm going to change the settings of that. So, just a little bit. We don't want a whole bunch of change of the color. All right. So I'm at 4. Usually for hair size, it's about 2 is what I like to do, depending on the size of the picture too. It makes a big difference. So I'm going to blow this up just so y'all can see this. All right. And I'm going to just start. Oh, that's just a horrible color. Hold on. Takes a few tries here. So we're going to go ahead with a little bit of the darker color. All right. All right. And I'm just going to kind of brush it in. I don't know why it still wants to be gray. Flow, everything smoothing. I'm going to check off. I'm going to uncheck color dynamics. That might be my issue. Okay. Yeah, that was the issue. Was the color dynamics. Just make it a little bit bigger, just so you can see it. 7. 7's way too big. See how we are making a hair there? Okay, these are way too big, and you're actually going to brush that in, and you can change your fade out with it too. And also, you can change the flow. I like the flow a little bit lower, so it's a little bit less opacity. Now, if the size of this brush was smaller, we're not going to do it as much in. So I do like to have a couple different sizes, but it does kind of fade out as we're going down. The longer we make it, so I like to start way up. Whoops, hold on. Who else does that all the time? And just kind of blend it in. This is a time-consuming process. And you can, and I do some squigglies in there too. If you watch, I'm going to put some squigglies in there. So I start out with a little bit thicker brush, and this can go on forever too. So you can do it how much you want, how much you don't want. And you can purchase brushes out there that are already preset to do what you want them to do. All right. I hope we covered enough today. I know there's so much to cover. All right. Okay, I'm getting asked, can I go back to transfer? You missed the photo, that photo. I'm not sure if I understand what you mean. I'll give you a second to answer that. Oh, the brush setting? Oh, okay, I get you. I got you. I'm sorry. I'm tired. Sorry, y'all. Okay, there you go. There's the transfer one. And you can adjust this how you want to. And these are really fun once you learn how to make your own brushes and everything. It's really fun to just kind of see what all these different controls can be. And like I said, you can buy your own brush stuff. Be careful with brushes sometimes when you purchase them. Sometimes they have, there's like a clump of hair and it's human hair. I find these brushes like this that actually use your small brush stroke are good. So tomorrow, we will go over a little bit more on enhancing the image. I might show you, if you have to replace the ground, how to make your own little, shadowing and everything. But we'll do some body replacements tomorrow. We will do, and what I'll probably do tonight is I'm going to complete some of these images, so they look good. And then we're going to do the body replacements. And if y'all want to work on them too, you're welcome to work on them. We'll do a couple body replacements, and that should take a while doing some of the body replacements, body part replacements, I should say. And we'll do a little. I'm going to teach you dodge and burning and how I kind of enhance the photo a little bit by making these dapples pop a little more, some more defining of the muscles. I don't enhance the eye a whole lot. I know some of them make it look super glassy. I really think this looks a little natural that we already get with the black background natural light. I like the eye as it is. I don't want to make it too, but like I said, I like to make mine look natural, not so much of like a painting and everything. And I can, like I said, I also can point you in the right direction of somebody who can teach you that natural art look, or not that fine art look. But like I always want people to develop your style, not my style, not somebody else's style. Develop your style, let that speak for yourself, because everybody's going to have a little bit different style of how they want. And once you get a style, get consistent, because that's what your clients are going to come for. And if you shoot something and they've seen your work, and then all of a sudden you change it up on them, they may not like it. I've seen that happen quite a few times with other people. So if you're consistent with your style, consistency is very, very key to doing things. Okay. No, I did not send this one to ReTouchUp that we're working with. I do have, I'll show you the ones that I did send to ReTouchUp. I'm going to close this one out because I do not like masking things out. I'm lazy. Not so much lazy. I call it time efficiency. When I can click something and it takes me 3 minutes to send a picture off versus taking me 45 minutes to clone something or mask something out, I will. This is that same one that I let Rebook You do for me. And there it is. I put in, go back, Jan, and you can watch. I demonstrated how I did that with this one earlier. I think I did, yeah. And if I didn't, let me know tomorrow and I will do it again. So I think that, let's see, is there any other questions? I think that's it. So we'll resume tomorrow, same time, same place. And if there's something I've forgotten to add of my resources and everything in the resource page, please let me know. I don't mind you nagging at me, because right now I don't know which way's up, which way's down, and everything. So see y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.